The last thing my husband ever said to me was, "Sign it, or I'll make sure you disappear with nothing." By sunrise, he kept his promise. Welcome to the Silent Dawn Theater, where hidden truths are exposed, betrayal meets its consequences, and justice always finds its way back to those who were meant to be silenced. If you believe that no matter how deeply someone is buried in lies, the truth will always rise, then subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story like this. And before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. No matter where you are in the world, your story matters too. Now, let's see what happened when a woman who lost everything discovered she was never meant to survive in the first place. My accounts were frozen. My cards were declined. My name was removed from everything that had once belonged to me. And me? I was standing outside my own house with 2 suitcases, a cardboard box, and nowhere to go. A cameraman across the street shouted, "How does it feel to lose everything?" I didn't answer, because the truth was worse. I wasn't just broke, I was being erased. Then a black car pulled up. The window rolled down. An older woman stared at me through the glass with the kind of expression people wear when they know a secret that can ruin lives. "Sophia Vale?" she asked. I frowned. "Who's asking?" "My name is Marin Cross. I'm a probate attorney, and if you come with me right now, you can stop sleeping on the street tonight." I let out a hollow laugh. "I don't have a car." She handed me a cream-colored envelope. Inside was a photograph of a mansion I had never seen, a set of old brass keys, and a single line written in black ink. "She belongs to you now." I stared at her. "What is this?" Marin's face didn't change. "Your uncle died 3 days ago." "I don't have an uncle." "You do now." She paused, then said the words that made the world tilt. "He left you $52 million. I actually stepped backward. Why would a stranger leave me that kind of money? Marin opened her briefcase and pulled out a second letter. Because he wasn't a stranger. I looked down. The signature at the bottom made my blood run cold. Elliot Hart. My mother's maiden name. My real family name. The one my husband hated enough to make me stop using. The one my father told me never to mention again. And the one I had not seen in 20 years. The townhouse sat on a dead-end street in Manhattan, hidden behind iron gates and old stone walls, like something from a story people would dismiss as too dramatic to be real. Inside, it was colder than I expected. Not temperature cold, grave cold. Furniture covered in white sheets, mirrors veiled, bookshelves towering to the ceiling, a smell of dust, cedar, and something metallic beneath the silence. Marin led me into the study and placed a sealed envelope on the desk. "Your uncle left instructions," she said. "You must stay here alone for 90 days. I stared at her. "Why?" "If you leave early, the entire estate goes to someone else." "Who?" Marin hesitated. "That depends on who survives the legal challenge." I frowned. "What legal challenge?" She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "Your husband has already contacted a lawyer." The room seemed to shrink. Why would he do that? Marin looked at me like I was the last person in a room that had already filled with smoke. "Because he thinks the money should have gone to him." I nearly laughed. Then I didn't because I realized she was serious. I tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter in elegant handwriting. Sophia, if you are reading this, then they have already smelled blood. They will come as family. They will come as victims. They will come as people who suddenly remember your name the second it becomes expensive. Do not let them in. Do not trust your husband. And whatever you do, do not believe the first lie they tell you about me. My hands tightened around the page. The first lie. What first lie? I turned the page over. There was one sentence underneath, written so hard it had nearly torn the paper. They will tell you I died alone. That is not true. I looked up too fast. Who wrote this? Marin's voice dropped. Your uncle. Then why does it feel like a warning? She didn't answer. She only handed me the keys. And when she left, I was alone in a house full of locked doors and unanswered questions.
The first person to show up was my sister. Not my real sister, my half-sister, Leela, the one who had spent our childhood pretending she was doing me a favor by tolerating me. She arrived in a white coat, perfect hair, and tearful eyes she clearly brought with her. "Sophia!" she whispered at the door, throwing her arms around me before I could stop her. "Thank God you're alive!" I pulled back. "Alive?" She blinked. "I mean, after everything, your marriage, the house, the media. How did you find me?" Her smile faltered for half a second. "Your attorney called." That was a lie. I knew it the second she said it. No attorney had called. I had been there when Marin set the privacy lock and changed the numbers. Leela stepped inside anyway, her gaze drifting across the mansion like she was already mentally auctioning the chandeliers. "This place is insane," she said. "I can't believe he left this to you." "He didn't leave it to us," I said. She frowned. "That's not what I meant." "What did you mean?" She touched my arm, gentle as a knife. "I mean you're going to need help. People are going to say horrible things. They're going to challenge the will. They'll say he was manipulated, that you were always the clever one, the ambitious one." My stomach tightened. "Who told you to say that?" Her face hardened. "What? You didn't come here for me. You came here because you already know what they want." Leela lowered her voice. "They? Sophia, I'm trying to protect you." "From who?" She looked at the windows. Then she looked at me, and for the first time I saw fear in her face. "From our father." My father arrived 48 hours later. He didn't call first. He never called first when he could walk in like a verdict. He stepped into the mansion with the same cold confidence he'd used for years whenever he needed everyone else to feel small. He glanced at the foyer, the paintings, the marble floors. Then he smiled. "So this is where he hid it." I stared at him. "You knew him." He looked at me like I was being difficult. "Of course I knew him." "Then why did you act like he didn't exist?" His jaw flexed. "You don't understand what kind of man he was." "Then explain it." He took a seat like he belonged there. Elliot Hart was unstable, obsessed. He thought blood made a person special. I went still. "Blood?" He ignored the word. "You need to be careful. He may have left you money, but that doesn't mean you're safe." I crossed my arms. "That sounds a lot like concern." "It is concern." "No," I said. "It sounds like panic." His expression changed. That was the first crack, and I saw it instantly. He knew something. I stepped closer. "What aren't you telling me?" He held my gaze too long. Then he said, "If the wrong people learn what that man left behind, they'll destroy you to get it." I frowned. "What does that mean?" He stood. "Just sign a power of attorney. Let my lawyers handle this before you do something you can't undo." I almost laughed. "You mean before I do something you can't control?" His eyes turned hard. "You have no idea what this inheritance actually is." He left before I could ask what he meant, But when I looked at the study desk afterward, there was a second drawer I hadn't noticed before. Open. Inside was a second envelope. No signature, only one line. Ask your father why he was at the hospital the night you were born. I stood there for a long time. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. A man's voice said, "If you want the truth, check the medical records before your father burns them." Then the line went dead. By morning, I had a name, a date, and a secret my father had spent 29 years burying. The records were missing. Not archived, not misplaced. Deleted. That was when I knew someone had already been here. And not just my father. My husband, Roman, showed up that afternoon with a lawyer and a look of practiced sorrow that made my skin crawl. He didn't even ask if he could come in. He smiled like we were still married. "You look good," he said. I laughed once. "You came here for my face?" He glanced around the mansion. "I came because I'm worried about you." "Really?" "Yes," he lowered his voice. "Sophia, this inheritance is going to create problems." "Like what?" "Like people questioning whether you're even entitled to it." I stared at him. Then I smiled. That made him nervous. "You know," I said, "for a man who ruined my life, you're shockingly comfortable making threats in my house." His lawyer shifted. Roman didn't. He stepped closer. "I'm offering you a way out." "A way out of what?" He looked directly into my eyes. "This." He tapped the folder in his hand. The lawyer opened it and slid papers across the table. I read the top line. "Motion to challenge will validity." My heart stopped. "On what grounds?" Roman's smile thinned. "Undue influence, mental instability, and suspicion of secret communication between you and the deceased." I stared at the page. "That's insane!" "Is it?" he said softly. "Because we have records." My throat tightened. "What records?" The lawyer answered, too smoothly. "Calls, letters, private meetings, financial transfers." I looked up sharply. "I never met him as an adult." Roman's expression barely moved. "You will say that under oath too?" The room felt suddenly very still. Then he leaned in and said the thing that made everything go dark. "You signed a prenup. You think that protects you? It doesn't. It only proves what you're worth when the right people get involved." I looked at him. The man I had slept beside for 11 years. The man who had kissed me goodbye before court. The man who had stood by while I was destroyed. And I understood. He hadn't come to win money. He had come to make sure I had none. The truth wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the attic. Hidden. Locked. Waiting. Files. Photos. Records. Of me. My entire life documented. Every moment. Every mistake. Every weakness. Someone had been watching me for years. Then I found it. A photo from the day I was born. My mother, a newborn, and a man standing behind her. Not my father, someone else. Written underneath, Elliot Hart, night of birth. My hands started shaking because that name was the man who supposedly left me the inheritance. I turned another photo over. At the bottom of the stack was an image I didn't understand. A paternity petition, filed and withdrawn by my father, meaning he had known my whole life. He had known, and I was not the daughter he claimed I was. My phone rang in my hand so suddenly I nearly dropped it. Marin. Her voice was tight. "Sophia, do not leave the house tonight." "Why?" "Because someone else is there." I froze. "What do you mean, someone else?" "Because I just got the security feed." She swallowed. "There's a man in the East Wing."
I turned slowly. The house was silent. Too silent. Then I heard it. A floorboard creak above me. Not in the attic. In the hallway. I whispered, "Marin?" Another creak. Closer. I backed toward the desk. Then the power cut out, and in the dark I heard a voice behind me say, "Happy birthday, Sophia." If this story has you on the edge of your seat, do not go anywhere. This is where everything changes. Keep watching because the truth Sophia is about to uncover will expose the kind of betrayal no one saw coming. And if you enjoy powerful stories of revenge, justice, and shocking twists, subscribe now so you do not miss what happens next.
I spun around. A figure stood in the doorway, holding a flashlight and wearing my husband's face. I stumbled backward. Then the light shifted. Wrong man. My husband's brother, the one everyone said had died in rehab. He smiled like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. "Roman didn't send me," he said. "He doesn't know I'm here. What do you want?" He raised the flashlight slightly and pointed it at the file in my hand. The truth. Before I could speak, he said, "Your uncle didn't leave you money because he loved you." I stared at him. "He left it because he was afraid of what you are." The room tilted. "What I am?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really don't know, do you?" Then he threw a folder onto the desk. Inside was a copy of my birth certificate and a blood test. My hands went cold. Under the column marked father was a name I had never seen before. Not my father, not Elliot Hart, someone else entirely. The brother watched my face carefully. "He's not your real father," he said. I barely breathed. "Then who is?" He leaned in and said, "Ask your mother what she traded to make you disappear." Then he was gone. Just gone. The front door slammed somewhere below. I ran to the staircase. No one. No sound. Only the file in my hands and the certainty that my whole life had been built on a lie so large it had its own shadow. By morning, the headlines had already started. Socialite claims secret inheritance. Family dispute explodes. Mystery Manhattan estate at center of storm. But the worst part wasn't the news. It was the email that arrived at 7:03 a.m. from my mother, dead for 14 years. Subject line, "You were never supposed to inherit that house." My breath caught so hard it hurt. The message was short, 3 sentences. "If you are reading this, they found the records. Do not trust Roman, and whatever you do, do not let the basement door open." I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. Basement? There was no basement on the floor plans, but there was a hidden door in the pantry. I knew because I had found it the day before and ignored it. Now I understood why it had felt wrong. I crossed the kitchen, pulled the pantry open, and found the brass handle tucked behind a shelf. Locked. Of course it was locked. Then I remembered the other key on the ring, the one Marin hadn't mentioned, the one with a tiny blood-red stone set into the head, the one shaped like an eye. My hands were shaking as I fitted into the lock. The door clicked open. Cold air rushed out, and from below, a voice whispered my name. Not a memory, not a recording, a real voice, a living one. I went rigid. Then I looked down the stairs, and there, at the bottom of the basement steps, standing in the dark like he had always belonged there, was the man everyone had told me was dead. My uncle, my father, Elliot Hart, alive. He looked older than the photographs, thinner, but absolutely alive. I couldn't speak. He raised one hand slowly, like he was trying not to frighten me. "You shouldn't be here," he said. I found my voice. "Dead men don't get to say that." His face changed. Not guilt, something worse. Recognition. "You look like her," he whispered. "Don't say that." I had to hide. From who? He looked past me, up the stairs, toward the house. Then he said, "From your husband." My blood went cold. What did you just say? But before he could answer, the front door upstairs slammed open. Heavy footsteps. 3 men. Roman, my father, and Marin. All of them moving fast. Toward the basement. Toward me. Toward him. Elliot grabbed my wrist and shoved a key into my hand. "When they get here," he said, "they'll tell you I'm the monster." I stared at him. "Are you?" He looked me dead in the eye. "No." The footsteps were closer now. He pointed at the key. "This opens the box. Inside is the reason they buried your mother. Inside is the reason they married you off. Inside is the reason I left you the house." A shadow fell across the top of the stairs. Roman's voice rang out from above. "Sophia, step away from him." I looked at Elliot, then at the stairs, then back at the key. And that's when I understood the final, sickening twist. The inheritance was never the prize. It was the trap, and I was the bait. I had 1 second to choose. Up the stairs to the people who had lied to me my whole life, or down into the darkness with the man who had vanished from it. I chose the box. The key fits with a metallic click. Inside the compartment was a stack of photographs, a tape recorder, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. I grabbed the envelope first. My hands trembled so badly, I nearly tore it open. Inside was a letter, not from Elliot, from my mother. "Sophia, if you are reading this, then the truth has finally cornered you. I made choices I could never undo. I thought I was protecting you. I was not. I was hiding you. Roman was never the man you thought he was. Your father was never the father you were told he was. And Elliot, your real father, never stopped looking for you. The inheritance was not meant to make you rich. It was meant to force them into the open, because once they came for the money, they would expose themselves. That was the only way to make the truth survive." I staggered backward. The tape recorder slipped from my hand. Elliot caught it before it hit the floor. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something like regret. "They knew where to find me," he said. "Why didn't you come sooner?" His face collapsed. "Because if I had, they would have killed you." My skin went cold. Then Marin's voice echoed from the stairs. "Give her the box." I looked up. She was standing there with Roman and my father behind her, and now her face was different. Not lawyer, not ally, owner. Roman smiled. "Did you really think this was yours?" My father stepped forward. "You were never meant to inherit anything." I stared at all of them, then looked at Elliot. "Who are they?" He answered one word: family. And suddenly, the word sounded like a curse. I pressed play on the tape recorder. At first, there was static. Then voices. My mother, Roman, my father, Marin. Every lie they had ever told me, preserved in perfect sound. A deal, a pregnancy, a hidden birth certificate, a marriage arranged to protect a scandal, a fake death, a fortune moved to cover it all. My knees nearly gave out. My father lunged forward, but Elliot stepped in front of me. Roman snarled, "You were supposed to stay buried." Elliot's voice turned ice cold, "And you were supposed to leave her alone." Marin reached for the recorder. I pulled it back. Then I said the only thing that mattered. "This is going to the press." Roman laughed. "You think anyone will believe you?" I smiled, because that part was already done. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Marin's own assistant. The files are live. The room went silent. The recordings, the scans, the letters, the hospital records, the fake paternity filings, everything published. Every major outlet had it within minutes. Roman's face drained. My father looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Marin backed toward the stairs, and Elliot just closed his eyes. The truth was now bigger than the room, bigger than the house, bigger than all of them, and they knew it. The legal battle collapsed within a week. Roman vanished. My father lost everything. Marin was disbarred. And the townhouse, the money, the lie, the name, they were all finally mine. Not because I had begged, not because I had submitted, because I had survived long enough to make the truth impossible to bury. I stood in the hallway of the house that had once felt like a coffin and looked at the man everyone had called dead. Elliot, my real father. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He only said, "I'm sorry I waited too long." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, "I'm sorry I had to find you in pieces." And for the first time, he cried. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever been underestimated, silenced, or made to feel like you didn't belong, leave a comment with the word unbreakable to stand with every survivor who refused to disappear. Like this video and share it with someone who needs to remember that the truth cannot be buried forever, and neither can they. We bring you stories of betrayal, hidden identities, justice, and redemption every week. So don't forget to subscribe and become a part of a community that believes survival is power. Until next time, stay aware, trust your instincts, and remember, some people inherit wealth, but the strongest ones inherit the truth.